I will.
Oh, I put my book up there.
Alrighty guys, thank you so much for coming in tonight. And thank you, Margaret Slovak, playing. That was always a pleasure to have you come in. And tonight we're going to have joining us is Dr. Sybil Pittman Estess. And she was born in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and has degrees from Baylor University, the University of Kentucky, and Syracuse University. She's the author of 5 books of poetry: Maneuvers, Labyrinth, Seeing the Desert Green, Blue Candled in the January Sun, and her most recent book, which is likely in your hands, Like That. She has also written a collection of criticism on Elizabeth Bishop titled Elizabeth Bishop and Her Art, and has co-written a multi-genre creative writing textbook and a field of words. She has published in over 150 literary critical essays, reviews, and editorials in journals, magazines, and newspaper. And if y'all want to help me join her onto the little stage.
And I want to say how glad and honored I am to be here. And if you can't hear me, just raise your hand. And thank Pam Boudin, it's Boudin, right?
But, yes.
For publishing my book and helping me along the way, and lots of encouragement and all kind of other good stuff. And together we chose the cover, and on the back is one of a view of the skyline of Houston that my website lady in Houston, her son took. So that's a real photograph of Houston. Okay, those of you who have books, I'm going to start off on page 4. I have, and my husband here, Ted, in the blue shirt in the back, have a little granddaughter who's about 6 months older than she is. And she would not be at a poetry reading, I can tell you that. Her name is Hema, and the book is dedicated to her, and she's 3.5, and her little sister is 10 months. We have kept Hema a lot, so we just delivered her. They live in Houston. Since she was just a few months old. And this is about when she was younger and still crawling. Right now she can argue the pants off of you, but she couldn't at that point because she was only saying 4 or 5 words. So the title is Up. Up is one of the few words my tiny 19-month-old granddaughter knows, along with mama, dada, agua, and bye-bye. She's always had a Spanish nanny, and she only says agua for water. She's only high enough to come up to our knees and has to look up constantly. So she wants to be up when she yearns to be held or cuddled or read to play, rock, sleep. Up, she says, when she has enough of her breakfast or lunch, and then supper. Up, she repeats, as she walks up the stairs, holding on to her grandfather or me, and also the railing. Even when she goes down, she says, up. It's up when she climbs like a mite spider onto the adult sofa or chairs. It seems that down would come soon, since she knows Dada with its D's. But what she desires now is up, then up and up. Always her current way of moving. It may be months, years, or a lifetime before she has to learn the meaning of going the opposite direction. Going down, delve, depths, disappointment, or just do it now. go downward, Emma. Not all good is up. The next one is on page 6. How many of you know of or have been to Esalen in Big Sur, California? You been? Only us two? Pam, have you been to Esalen? I can't believe it, you've been everywhere. Well, in 2010, I'd heard of it for 30 years, but I got a chance to go there for a day. So this is a sort of satirical poem about Esalen. Edge, Esalen, Big Sur, California, May 2010. California's broken. Seattle's NASDAQ is unsafe. Portland's hills on the river have ceased building. La Jolla's lures have too many Chicanos along seashore with its blooming red roses. Libraries are closed. Yet one spot by the redwoods on water is still sanctified, sacred, Esalen. North of Hearst Castle, south of Carmel and Monterey, 25 acres of hot sulfur springs from rocks, gardens raised organically, courses, neuroscientific way to happiness, end quote. The neurodharma of love, end quote. Quote, Tai Chi easy, end quote. Quote, psychopharmacology, end quote. Quote, the transformational enneagram. Quote, being present to your life. Romancing spirit. Spirit medicine, vision seeker 2. This is the best one. Don't look for a job, just create an ROLE, end quote. And if you ditch your clothes, lie on these decks, buck naked, butts abreast, and bush up. After you have descended the dusty hill to bathe, whether you are dirty, divorced, unemployed, disabled, uneducated, or have just spent your life uptight, have or have not smoked pot, you will be whole. And this one is on page 12. How to receive. We lived in Syracuse, New York, 10 years. We got used to the cold, but I never got used to snow from October until June. It was November 1 in Syracuse, New York, some 40 years ago. Leaf colors had just passed. Global warming had not yet come. It was total blue and clear sky. So I wanted to take a walk. Ground was so slightly white. Air crisp enough I could hear my own breath, my crunch steps on ground. That day, all trees bare. The big thermometer we sat on the porch said 0, I recall. And the one on the next page, 13. Did any of you happen to, have you been in Houston to the main MFA Museum of Fine Arts? And they have a whole gallery, don't they, Dad?
3 or 4 big rooms.
3 or 4 big Blaffer gallery rooms. Well, the Blaffer family of Dallas and Houston had one oil company, and the other side of Jane Blaffer Owen's family had another oil company, but her mother was an art collector. And so we knew Jane Blaffer Owen, who only died 4 years ago this summer at age 95, and she was a big patron of the arts of Houston. She was also very religious, and she lived alone and slept upstairs in many different houses, but her main house was in Houston until she died, till she got sick with her death, which was only a few weeks. And she didn't like to eat alone. So one night, she would usually have parties and caterers, but one night she called ahead of me and said, "I cooked gumbo, come eat with me in the kitchen." So we did. We went in the side room, and she was sitting at a chair reading Thomas Merton. And when we went in, she said, "Just listen to this." And she's reading Merton out loud to us. And this is some of what it said, and I wrote this poem about it. Talents of the Holy Ghost. Thomas Merton claims that when the Holy Spirit lifts us up, it's by his claws, his talents. They dig and they hurt. Do we want it? Do we desire to rise above mire from which he might free us? Or do we hope to stay stuck? Are we eager for our skin to rip, his tough beak break our hearts? Do you really yearn to fly with him, leading? This is page 17. Houston, how we passed through. When Phil, my African-American friend here, who owned the Texaco service station at the corner of the Bayou and Calhoun Street, a half mile from our house, sold out, he had full service, which was very rare here. We both cried when we said goodbye. We had had a past. We had been confidants about my husband and his wife, fishing in Mississippi, where I'm from, carburetors, all kind of gaskets and gasoline, strangers, even his customers. Only one sexy white woman kept coming in shorts, sitting down flirting with him. He always said, "Mama will kill me." But the sadness, we live in mostly segregated sections. I am white, am not welcome in his black. I once went to his home. His wife frowned. I was not invited to sit down. Now, Mr. Gonzalez, our postman of 30 years, secretly goes into unexpected yet unacknowledged retirement. Some folks in our small, friendly neighborhood are making him an appreciation basket, as if he had died. He is dead to us. Where does he live? We cannot guess. He is Hispanic. His house is not near us. I know, since he told me he has a food garden with chickens too. We discuss it at my bright blue door, and drought helps his hospitalization. Now he'll be gone forever. Crossing these lines, we still do not dare. And page 21. I'm going to try to get into some funny ones now. The happiness with which it ends. They liked each other a lot, but she adored Santa Barbara and San Diego. He grouped on Bangor, Maine, while she sunbathed in Key West. He longed to be riding a bike in Stanley Park, Vancouver, or he chose New York while she drove around happy in LA. Finally, they decided to move to another country. They tried Europe. She was delighted by Greece and Sicily. He loved Holland and The Hague and also Scandinavia. He then found Russia so enthralling, but she had a very hard time leaving Egypt. Then they did Asia. He adored Beijing. She could hardly part from Bangkok galore. Their tastes just seemed different most of the time. They knew they needed to compromise, so they eventually thought of living on the ocean. He found the Atlantic his preference, while she stubbornly always chose the Pacific. They finally tried out the Gulf of Mexico, and oh, how they were happy. No one could ever say why, their secret. Yet they never had even one argument after they met there in the blue waters and swam. Finally, I am, she said. He said it too. They were Page 24. Our house was built in 1936, and one day I started fantasizing about how many might have lived there and what all they did there, and then I started thinking about other old houses all over the country and in the world, and all the families that pass through a house if it lasts. There aren't that many in Houston that have, but fortunately I don't know if Austin tears down like Houston, but we tend to tear down anything if it's over 20 years old. In passing, how many before you have decorated your house or died here before you? How many have loved this past or have loathed their histories here? Who has rested her body from a day's tedium? Who has cooked here for cousins, for farmers perhaps, or MDs? Who made her own bread spread here, taking 5 years? Who quilted, neighbors always helping her in the front room? Who took a photograph of whom? Assume the house has outlasted weather, tornado, wind, and fire. The persons labored here pass first. But what? The persons who labored here pass first. But what will our kids do with these buildings? Inherit? Inhabit? Well, sell. They could live on or reinvest house cash. They could lose it, use it, or trash. This home you love, the place you reared them, will pass on. The deed. So all of your doings, including your books, they may all pass to strangers. Even your enemy could end up owning your locks, strange knobs and walls, stranger keys. Look at our snap your finger days here. Think of them as your ways. I think here it is, page 40. This is another rather comical one. Ted and I got to spend 2 different months, 2 different summers in Sicily, a month at a time, in the same apartment on the water. It was fabulous. Owned by an American woman who didn't charge much. And the only reason I think we haven't been back is it's so far over there. The laundry lover. Laundry seems to have an almost religious importance for many women. Kathleen Norris, the Cloister Walk. Oh, let there be nothing on earth but laundry. Richard Wilbur, love calls us to the things of this world. I'll try to learn, to conserve, to be green, yet I love more than most laborers clothes washing. My mother left me this legacy. It really bestows the illusion, and intruding friend says, of actually getting things done. I agree. Yet to expurgate all my underwear, to clean my baptism after baptism ritual, those towels time after time, to purge stains, dishcloths, dust rags. What is more rewarding? I have scoured clothes while camping, slung cotton cloth over lines, from pine to aspen, from oak to birch. I have rinsed tons of loads, tossing various materials in American dryers. I have soaked dirties on a fashionably all-gravel street, San Acacio in Santa Fe, deposited them amid dust on adobe yard walls, or coyote fences, decrepit sticks. I've looped hand wash over tubs in England, Belgium, Germany, across WC showers in Paris, put my purified panties outside in Holy Land wind by Galilee, in Greece, Crete, Mexico. Now, what laundress could be as lucky as I am today, even blessed